Hi everybody and welcome to the video. I'll be showing you how to make a game ready asset in Blender and Marmoset Toolbag 4. Now I've come back to this again because I did actually miss this face earlier on when I was making this thicker at the bottom here. I did miss this face here, so I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'll select the object first, select that vertex there, and I'm going to use vertex snap in, which I've selected there. Click on this axis, hold down Control and snap it to that point there. That brings it into line with the other one, so that's good. I just realized this is kind of like a mirror to this part here, and yet this one's cut this way, this one is cut that way. So why don't we just make this that way as well. Let's do edge, rotate clockwise. Let's isolate that for a second, because before we move on we need to make sure this is a closed object, meaning it doesn't have any holes inside it like this. Not these kind of holes, because they actually have geometry, but an open gap basically in the model. So let's tab into edit mode, edge selection, alt click that edge there, press F to fill, select that edge in the middle, right click and subdivide twice. Now you can't see, but now we have two vertices. We can select these two, press J to join. Just like that. And let's rename this to blade underscore low. And make a copy of that, so Shift D, right click. Let's call that high. Oops, we already have high versions. Let's hide the low version. Let's come out of isolation actually, because we're getting a bit messy there. So we've got the handle there. Let's hide that for a moment. Let's make sure we save. And with our high object selected, let's apply the mirror modifier. Like that. Let's delete the smooth by angle modifier as well. Let's tab into edit mode, and in edge selection, let's select one of these edges, which is marked sharp. Remember that, it's marked sharp, right? Go to select, similar sharpness. And that will select all of the sharp edges. And with that selected, I'm going to press Shift B. Sorry, not Shift B, Control B, what am I saying? And add a small bevel to that, something like that. And the important thing as well is make the shape 1, so that we keep all of these nice boundary edge loops. And of course, meter outer, change that to sharp. And you notice there, that's a lot cleaner, like that, as it would be in these areas as well. That gives us really much better topology, basically. So that looks good. Let's go with that. So now we've got that edge kind of baked in there. You can see we've got our hard edges in there as well. And now that we've done that, let's select them all and clear that. We don't really need those sharp edges anymore. We're going to add a subdivision modifier. So what I'm going to do is copy that again, Shift D, make a copy of that, drag it into backups. And now with that selected, we're going to apply. Can I turn it up to 4? But let's go with that. Let's just apply that with 4 levels. And here they are. They're called the ZBrush Orb Brushes Pack. Just orb brushes, really. And you get a set of 24 brushes. I'll put the link in the description for this. I'm not going to run through how to install these. I think Grant Abbott, well, I know Grant Abbott recently released a video showing you how to do that. So I won't waste your time taking you through that as well. And now, in addition to that, you can also purchase things like sculpt brushes on Blender Market. And this one here, the only reason I bring this one up is because I bought this as part of a bundle. It may have been on Blender Market itself, or it may have been part of a humble bundle on the website there. So regardless, you can pick 10 free brushes up and 2 VDM brushes for free here, or you can purchase a standard license for 1 user. I think I get all of these brushes. Haven't gone through them all. All I've done is unzip a few of those to try them out in today's session. So again, I won't dwell on this too long. You don't have to buy anything, of course, just use the standard and default Blender brushes. But certainly I encourage you to get these. These are free and they're great brushes. Now, before we can actually sculpt properly, we need to remesh the model, only because we don't have enough geometry consistently across the whole object. So to do that, we're going to remesh up here. The default value is 0.1, that's not enough for us. So if I turn on the wireframe again, you'll see me doing that a lot on and off. I've got nice dense geometry there and around the edges, but not in the body of the object. So let's sample how much detail we have here and try and use something similar. So here we've got an eyedropper. Let's click that and click here. That gives us a value of 0.001. Let's make that 0.002. That's quite fine, of course, quite detailed. I'm going to leave this as default and click on Remesh. So I've turned statistics on in the viewport there. Keep an eye on that. Once this is done, which it is now, it jumps up to 2 million, just over 2 million faces. You can see the result of that there. So obviously from a distance it looks very dark because it's all edges. So let's turn the wireframe off and see how that works now. So with that brush selected, that's lovely. That's really nice. I think we're on to a winner. Let's save that and start working on this. Now, as you've already seen, I've got some of these brushes installed. So I'm going to start off with selecting clay strips, and I'm going to select one of the Orb brushes that we have installed or added to Blender. This one I don't think I've tried yet, /01. Let's try that. Now, before you continue, make sure you have front faces only switched on. Okay? And in fact, to help this even more, I don't want to mess around with the edges at the bottom there. So what I might do is switch to the side view, and I'm going to select the box mask just there and draw a box just over halfway like that. So you can see it's just over halfway. Anything I do now won't be affecting this masked area. However, the mask is really sharp. So let's head over to the mask menu and let's grow it perhaps a little bit. That's a bit too much. Let's undo. Let's try and do smooth mask. Yeah, I was afraid of that. It's slightly gone over into that region. Let's undo that. Let's go to the side view again and box mask, make a slightly larger selection so that when we smooth it, it doesn't run over as much. Let's go for that. And again, mask, smooth mask. I think that's about right, actually. Yeah, it's looking good. So let's select our brush again. So over at clay strips, we've got this one. And now so we don't really need front faces only, but I'll leave it on anyway. And if I just click and drag, but before I do that, let's switch over to matte cap and select the red one there. Makes it a bit easier to see what's going on. If I click and drag now, you can see we're now getting that just on that side only. So that's a nice big brush there we can use. Not big, but it's not as big as I make it, but now you can use that to make some cuts. And before I proceed, I must try to remember this. The original sketch, we had let's hide the high version. We had this area of detail that I really want to try and minimize the damage in, because it makes it a little bit harder to make that if there's all this other stuff going on. So I'm going to turn on the high. Just try to bear that in mind. If you want to leave that area less damaged, that would be quite good for later on. So we've got our high selected. Let's hide our sketch, and that still works. Yeah, and we still have a mask. It's great. So let's start actually putting some damage into this now. So I'm going to press 1 on the numpad, go to front view, and I can start chipping away at this, like so. You decide where you want to put your cuts and things. That's probably a bit too... No, that looks okay actually. It's not too bad. Press 1 again on the numpad. Oops, I keep doing that. Random is your friend when it comes to this stuff. So just pick where you want to add these. Let's make sure that mask is working. If I drag that like that, you can see it hasn't really affected our profile or anything. So that's really cool. Let's add a few more bits here and there, like this. As I say, feel free to do, maybe there's a big one there. Nope, let's make it a small one here, like that. Try and add some variety to this. So just do this pretty quickly actually, just to get through this. And before I continue and have a jump cut, because this will take a while, I want to select the draw brush. And there's an excellent brush, sorry, not that one, clay strips. No, I was just on that one. Scrape, that's the one, sorry. And I'm going to use the Orb Flatten Edge Protect. So I want to select that. And what's really nice about this is you get this effect, which is lovely. You kind of just, you have this kind of dented edges going on. It's really nice. And the settings for that I have changed because I wasn't quite happy with the way it was coming out by default. Depending on the model, it varies how the brush reacts, I find. So this is 5% by default. I've changed it to 3. Put it down to 2 if you want as well. That's always a good one. Input samples is set to 1. And that just makes it a lot smoother when you increase that number. So obviously don't go crazy with the numbers. I went up to 8 and that seems to work pretty well. And there's another setting up here. The normal radius, I think by default is 1.5, somewhere there. And I put it down to 0.5. I won't try and pretend that I understand what all that means, but feel free to read that up and do some research. So those are the settings I'm using, and you get this lovely effect by doing that. So maybe we can put some little indentations here, like so. And that's working really well. Perhaps we can do one here as well, at the edge of that part there, like that. That's really nice. Okay, so work your way around the model, doing that, give it these nice touches up and details, like that. Let's make one here as well. where it would have taken some damage on that point there. And here as well. Round that off just a little bit. Like that. Also twist them like this. Just if you cross over the line, you get this kind of twist, which is quite nice. Obviously, it's not a twist, but it's ended up doesn't just went in that direction basically. And it looks really good on these holes as well. So thinking about where the damage would be, as the blade comes down, the impact will be more at the top edge. So we can click here and give that some damage like that. Make sure we try and flatten that a little bit like this. Okay. Make sure you save your work every few minutes, because you know this is quite heavy. Yours might vary, your version in terms of detail, but yeah, just continue going around, making these nice and smooth. Make a few dents here and there. Oh, that feels really good, really smooth. Nice. Let's make some up here as well. Make some bigger ones. If I zoom out, the dent will be bigger like that. So that's quite nice. And you can smooth that out by holding down the shift key. Okay, so you can see that working really well there. So let's make one, maybe one here. Smooth that out. The angle is important as well. So let's refine that a little bit there, make that a bit more refined. Maybe go this way. There. Like that. That's pretty nice. Make this one a bit larger, I think. That's pretty good. And I'll do a jump cut next, so I'll see you in a few seconds. And welcome back. So after a considerable amount of time, I think I was just being too fussy. This is the result of the sculpting. So I'm quite pleased with that. Worked out really well. As you can see, I've avoided that area there where we're going to add some sort of decoration. So I only used a few brushes actually, mainly, well, all of the orb ones actually. I didn't use any of the others. So you have the slash, that one there, and various other ones from Scrape, especially that one there with the making these lovely kind of dented edges. That's perfect for that. And I mean, that's pretty much it really. I also used the lines large and small, and I believe there were some other ones here. So got the slash 02, 01 and so on and so forth, and a few of these little bumpy ones which I made as indents, and that was pretty much it. So the next part will work on the ornamental part there, so I'll see you in a second. Okay, I've jumped ahead a little bit and painstakingly drew this mask. So if I turn off the overlays, that's the sculpt we had a second ago, and this is the mask. So these areas here are the areas where I want to add some decoration. So let's crack on and do that. Let's go to the draw brush, select our standard brush just there, and let's just double check we've got front faces only turned on. That's fine, nothing else happening there. So if I was to draw now, you can see sculpt. I keep saying draw. That affects only the masked area. So we want that effect, but we want it to go down, not out. So let's turn the strength down to 0.3 and set it to minus. And if we just draw like this, see what happens. turn off our overlays. And you can see we're getting that sort of effect. Let's turn our overlays back on. Let's start with this side. So I'm pressing 1 on the numpad. Increase the size of our brush so it covers the whole area. And I want to make sure that accumulate is off. That way it doesn't continue to... It still does it though. It still keeps adding to the geometry. Let's just continue anyway regardless, and maybe set that down a little bit more then. 0.15. And I'm going to click and drag. So left to right, and that gives us that. That's actually pretty good. Happy with that. Let's go with the other side. So 1 on the numpad, Control 1 to flip it over. Let's turn our overlays back on, and let's just paint in there. So once, twice. Turn our overlays back off, and I'm going to call that done. Hurrah! That's rather nice. Let's save that. Back to 1. And now I'm going to use none of these brushes. I'm going to go to clay strips and select Blender's default clay strip brush. And as I said earlier, I made some changes to the settings. So 0.5 on the normal radius, 2% on spacing, and 8 on the inputs samples. Let's make our brush rather small, like so. Remember, we still have the mask, so I'm going to keep that for a while. Keep that on. Just know that it's there. And what I'm going to do is, oops, I have stabilize on. Let's turn that off. I'm going to go in and start drawing these shapes like that. That's probably a little bit weak. So let's turn that up to 0.3 or 0.25 even. 1 on the numpad. And we can start drawing these decorative parts. So undo that. So let's try and figure out a pattern. Our sketch has these kind of crisscrossy type of curves really. Nothing too complicated. So let's try and get something like that. Trying to keep a consistent size as well on the brush size as we go along. So once we get to this zoom level, just want to pan it across and continue right to the end. That way we get the same size as we work down. So I'll start off the process and do another jump cut once I've finished. So let's make a start. It's totally random. And you could add a texture in here and do this via a texture. Should be quite nice. Then I've gone and zoomed in and out again, haven't I? That seems to be about the same. Now we've got this direction. Let's go in this direction now. And then this one over here, we can go in this direction. And of course we have the mask on. I don't know why I just don't do that. But it kind of touches the mask, so I don't really want to do that. And this one we can go this way. Like that. This one maybe go that way. It's a little bit more tricky when you get to the corners. So this side is done, and that's the result. So I'm really pleased with that, and that's turned out pretty good. So now it's the same on the other side, and I'm going to jump cut that, of course. Don't need to show you that technique again. So I'll see you shortly. So we've got both sides done now, and that looks pretty nice. It's turned out better than I thought, I think. And next we're going to work on the handle. That's the low poly version, of course. So we need to figure out, goodness me, look at the density on that. So yeah, we've got over 4 million edges and triangles. So yeah, that's the low version handle. We'll work on the high version in the next part. I'll see you then. Bye for now.